In the most ancient times, when the world was still young, people lived in darkness and cold. They feared the night, for there was nothing that could drive away the gloom. Rain and wind seemed like hostile forces, and winter felt like doom. Humanity existed but did not truly live. Without warmth, without light, without the ability to cultivate the land or forge tools. Even food was coarse and raw, for no one knew how to master fire. At this time, the gods of Mount Olympus watched over humankind. To them, mortals were nothing more than weak creatures, destined to tremble before Zeus's storms and seek divine favor through prayers. But among the Olympians, there was one who saw something more in people. This was Prometheus, a titan, descendant of the ancient gods, who pitted mortals and believed they were capable of great deeds. Prometheus saw how people shivered in caves, how they perished from hunger and predators, defenseless. His heart could not bear it. He knew that if he gave humanity fire, their lives would change forever. Fire meant strength, progress, the path to culture and civilization. But he also knew that the chief god, Zeus, had forbidden mortals from possessing this gift. For fire would make them too independent, too much like the gods themselves. Yet for Prometheus, compassion outweighed fear of the ruler of the heavens. And thus begins one of the most dramatic stories in Greek mythology, the tale of the theft of fire and the cruel punishment that awaited the Titan. For many years Prometheus hesitated. He saw the stern gaze of Zeus, the lightning bolts with which the ruler of the skies kept both gods and mortals in fear. Yet each time the Titan descended to the earth and looked upon mortals, his heart was torn with pity. Humans had been created weak, but in their eyes burned a spark, a yearning for knowledge, a thirst for life. One day Prometheus climbed alone to the slopes of the Caucasus Mountains. There, amidst the mists and winds, he made his decision to defy Zeus himself. He knew the consequences could be terrible. He knew that no titan or god would dare to go against the will of the Thunderer. But his compassion had turned into a flame that could no longer be extinguished. Prometheus devised a cunning plan. He resolved to steal fire from the forges of Hephaestus, the god of smithing, where flames burned tirelessly. But how could he carry it without letting it die? Then he took an empty reed stalk and hid a spark inside. That tiny fire would become the greatest gift in the history of humankind. On a moonlit night, while Olympus slept, Prometheus ascended. His steps were silent, his heart thundered loudly, and within his soul fear and resolve intertwined. He knew there was no way back. In the depths of Olympus, where the divine smiths dwelled, the forge of Hephaestus burned without end. It was the heart of creative power, forging weapons for the immortals and crafting unmatched wonders. The flame there never died. It was pure fire of divine energy. It was here that Prometheus crept. His steps echoed in the silence. He saw massive anvils, gleaming tools, remnants of bronze swords and shields. But his eyes were fixed only on the fire. The flame blazed with golden light, casting reflections on the stone walls. The Titan bent down, took his reed stalk, and carefully brought it to the fire. A spark fell inside, and at once the stalk glowed from within, as if it had come alive. Prometheus felt the warmth coursing through his hands. This was the moment that changed everything. Without looking back, he left the forge and set out again. His heart beat with both excitement and joy. He knew, now humanity would have the chance to become something greater. The fire he carried would mark the beginning of culture, science, and art. It was the gift that would turn humankind from defenseless beings into creators of their own destiny. But over it all loomed the shadow of Zeus's wrath. For no one, not even a titan, could defy the will of the Thunderer without punishment. After a long and dangerous journey, Prometheus returned to the earth. His heart beat faster than ever. In his hands he held a treasure no mortal had ever known. Deep inside the reed stalk pulsed a spark, small and fragile, yet capable of changing the course of human history. The people greeted the Titan with wonder. They did not yet know what awaited them, but hope shone in their eyes. Prometheus lit the first fire. Flames flared up, and the darkness that had ruled all around drew back. For the first time, people saw how the night could retreat before the light. The fire warmed their hands, bringing heat and a sense of safety. The fire became their symbol of power. They learned to cook food, turning raw meat into fragrant meals. They learned to drive away predators, who no longer dared to approach the glow. Fire became the center of their settlements, around which songs, dances, and the first myths were born. Prometheus watched it all, and his heart swelled with pride. He saw how people, helpless only yesterday, were now gaining confidence. This was the beginning of their path to civilization. Yet, deep within, he knew Zeus would not leave this act unpunished. On Olympus, night clouds swirled around the throne of the Thunderer. Zeus felt that his will had been broken. He needed no witnesses to know. Only Prometheus could have dared such a deed. The gods gathered in the great hall. Hera, Athena, Apollo, and the others looked at Zeus with fear. They knew his wrath and had no doubt it would fall upon the Titan. Thunder rolled across the sky, lightning split the darkness. Zeus stood mighty and furious, and his voice roared like a storm. Prometheus has betrayed the gods. He has given to mortals what belonged only to us. For this, he shall be punished so that none will ever again dare to defy Olympus. Zeus was not merely angered at the Titan. He hated him. For fire made humans not only stronger, but freer. And the freedom of mortals had always been a threat to Zeus. And so he pronounced the sentence: Prometheus would be chained to a rock at the edge of the world, in the mountains of the Caucasus. His body would become an eternal target for suffering, so that all might see the price of defiance. Prometheus was seized by the divine servants, Kratos and Bia, the symbols of strength and compulsion. They knew no pity and asked no questions. Their mission was only one: to carry out the will of Zeus. With them was Hephaestus, the smith god, who was to fasten the Titan to the rock. When Prometheus was brought to the summit of the Caucasus, an endless landscape opened before him: snow-covered mountain ridges, a cold wind piercing the body. No peace was given to him. Hephaestus, though he pitied Prometheus, had to obey the command. His hands trembled as he struck with the hammer, driving iron chains into the rock. "Forgive me, Prometheus," he whispered, turning his gaze away. "But I cannot stand against Zeus." Prometheus did not answer. His eyes burned with resolve. He knew his torment would be endless, but he had no regrets. For in the distance he could see the smoke of human fires already rising on the earth. This was the price of freedom, and he was ready to pay it. Then a dark silhouette appeared in the sky. It was the eagle, the creature of Zeus, vast and merciless. Each day it came to tear at the Titan's liver, and each night the wound healed, so the torment would last again and again. It became an eternal cycle of suffering without end. Days turned into nights, and nights once more into days. For humans, time followed its course. They learned to forge weapons, build homes, cook their food. But for Prometheus, each day was the same as the last: pain, screams, and the endless wait for the eagle that appeared in the sky with the first rays of the sun. The great bird landed on the Titan's chest, and its beak tore into his flesh. Blood streamed onto the rock, and Prometheus's cries echoed through the mountains, yet no one came to help him. Every wound healed only so that the eagle could inflict them anew the next day. It was torment designed solely to break the Titan's spirit. Yet despite the suffering, his eyes never dimmed. Prometheus saw in the distance the light of human settlements. He knew that the fire he had given had changed everything. Humans were now stronger than ever. And even when pain gripped his chest, pride still lived in his heart. He had not betrayed his choice. Decades passed. Prometheus became a symbol of suffering, but also of unbreakable spirit. Everyone knew his story. Even the gods themselves came to witness the Titan's torment. Some mocked him, while others pitied him. Yet none dared to openly oppose the will of Zeus. At times, in the moments between the eagle's attacks, Prometheus recalled the past, the bright smiles of humans when they first saw fire, the feeling of warmth that heated their palms. These memories became his only comfort. But he was not destined to remain entirely alone. Gods and mortals came to him. Among them were Oceanus and his daughters, the Oceanids, who brought him words of sympathy. They tried to console him, but Prometheus only turned his gaze away. He did not want pity. All he needed was the certainty that his suffering was not in vain. Though bound in chains, Prometheus possessed a gift that even Zeus feared, the gift of foresight. In the silence, amid the pain, he saw the future. And this future terrified the Thunderer. For Prometheus knew a secret: Zeus faced downfall if he did not beware a certain offspring. When the gods came to mock him, Prometheus answered them with words full of riddles. "You laugh at my torment, but the day will come when even Zeus will tremble with fear. And then only I shall know the way to salvation." These words spread among the Olympians, sowing mistrust and unease. Zeus did not dare destroy Prometheus, for he knew, within his prophecy might lie the truth. And this made the Titan even more dangerous in chains than he had been in freedom. Time passed, and a new generation arose in the world of men. They were stronger, braver, and wiser thanks to the fire Prometheus had given them. Among them were born warriors and thinkers, kings and shepherds, builders and wanderers. But among all mortals and demigods, one had a destiny unlike any other. This was Heracles, the son of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene. His birth was no accident, even in it the will of fate was at work. From the very beginning, Heracles carried within himself a strength greater than that of any man. His childhood was not easy. Hera hated the boy from his earliest days, for he reminded her of Zeus's betrayal. Yet every trial she sent only tempered his spirit. In time, he became a hero about whom legends were told even in his lifetime. His 12 labors were known to all, from cleansing the Augean stables to defeating the Nemean lion. But in the shadow of these feats lay another, no less great destiny: to free Prometheus. For only a hero who did not fear the gods and did not bow before their wrath could challenge Zeus himself and break his curse. As the labors of Heracles neared their end, fate guided him toward a new purpose. He had heard tales of the Titan chained at the edge of the world, of the eagle that tore at his flesh day after day. At first, it seemed distant and unreal, but little by little, he felt that this story was closely tied to his own destiny. Heracles set out on a long journey. His path led him across mountain ranges, rivers, and wild forests. Along the way, he met people who told him legends of Prometheus. Some said he was a criminal who had offended the gods, while others called him the savior and benefactor of humankind. The hero pressed on, sensing that behind these stories lay the truth. And the closer he came to the Caucasus Mountains, the more strongly his heart beat with anticipation. He knew that ahead awaited a meeting that would change everything. Heracles climbed high into the mountains, where there were neither paths nor traces of human footsteps. There, among the rocks and clouds, he saw him, the giant bound in chains. Prometheus's hair and beard were gray, his body covered with wounds, yet in his eyes burned a fire no torment could extinguish. Heracles stopped and gazed at the Titan for a long time. And then he understood. Everything people had said was true. Before him stood not a criminal, but a martyr who had sacrificed himself for the sake of others. "Are you the one they call Prometheus?" he asked. "I am the one cursed by Zeus," the Titan replied in a quiet yet deep voice. "And the one who never regretted his choice." Heracles tightened his grip on his bow. He knew that somewhere nearby the eagle was circling, and he knew the time had come to put an end to this torment. As soon as Heracles approached Prometheus, the air was split by a piercing screech. From the heavens descended a gigantic eagle, a bird so vast its wings blotted out the sun. This was a creature born of Zeus himself, a symbol of punishment and fear, a merciless being that tore at the Titan's body day after day. Its eyes blazed with a cold golden light, its beak gleamed as though forged from bronze, and its talons were sharper than any sword. It circled in the sky, slowly descending, sensing the presence of a stranger. The eagle knew, soon another feast would begin as it always had. But today was different. Today, at the foot of the cliff, stood Heracles, a man and demigod whose strength surpassed that of many. He raised his head and met the bird's gaze, and in his eyes there was no fear, only calm and resolve. Prometheus smiled through the pain. He understood. His time had come, and fate had finally brought to him the one who could break the eternal sentence. The eagle swooped down with a shriek, its wings whipping up a storm among the cliffs. Heracles instantly drew the bowstring. The arrow gleamed in the sunlight and shot forward with incredible speed. It struck the giant's feather, but the bird only grew more enraged. A battle began that made the mountains tremble. The eagle lunged at the hero, trying to tear him apart with its talons, but Heracles skillfully dodged, seized the wings, and pushed back the beak. His strength was immense, yet the eagle's power was divine, sent by Zeus himself. The fight raged on. Cliffs shattered under the blows, clouds split apart with the cries, and the earth quaked beneath the hero's feet. At last, Heracles loosed the final, decisive arrow. It pierced the bird's heart, and the giant, with a piercing scream, plunged into the abyss. Its wings vanished into the clouds, and the echo of its fall resounded through the mountains for a long time. Heracles stood, breathing heavily, but his eyes shone with triumph. He had defeated not just a bird. He had conquered fear. He had defied the very will of Zeus. Silence fell upon the mountain peak. The eagle no longer circled in the sky. Its shadow had vanished forever. Heracles approached Prometheus. The chains that bound the Titan were not mere iron. They had been forged by Hephaestus at Zeus's command, of fire and divine metal. No human strength could break them. But Heracles was not only human. He lifted his club and struck the chains with all his might. The mountains echoed with the sound, and the first chain shattered into sparks. Another blow, and the second fell away. At last, the final chain cracked and burst apart, and Prometheus sank to his knees, tasting long-awaited freedom. He raised his head to the sky. His chest filled with a breath he had not felt for centuries. In Prometheus's eyes shone gratitude, and in his voice rang a strength that could never die. "You have given me freedom, and from this day your name will be honored alongside mine. Humanity will remember you, Heracles, as the liberator." The hero only nodded. To him, this was not a feat, but justice. For one who had given himself for mankind could not be left in chains. There was no silence on Olympus. Clouds gathered in black masses, thunder rolled across the heavens, and lightning split the horizon. Zeus had learned of the fall of his eagle and the liberation of Prometheus. His fury was boundless. He, the lord of sky and thunder, felt his power had been defied. The other gods gathered in the golden hall. Athena bowed her head in concern, understanding that Heracles' intervention had been inevitable. Apollo looked aside, trying to hide his sympathy for Prometheus. Only Hera, wife of Zeus, fanned the flames of his anger, reminding him of the Titan's defiance and that his will could not be broken. Zeus raised his hand, and thunder struck the ground at the god's feet. His voice roared like a storm. "No one dares stand against me, even if it is my son, even if it is heroes." Prometheus was and will remain a symbol of treachery. But deep within, Zeus knew the world had changed. Fire was already in the hands of mankind, and even his power could not take this gift back. On Earth, news of Prometheus's liberation was already spreading. Peasants lit bonfires, blacksmiths struck their hammers against glowing metal, women baked bread over the coals. All this was thanks to the Titan who had once given them fire. People gathered for festivals and sang songs about the hero who had not spared himself for the sake of their lives. They created legends passed from father to son, from mother to daughter. And everywhere, the name of Prometheus was heard: liberator, martyr, friend of mankind. In the fire blazing in hearths and homes, they saw his sacrifice. In the warmth that saved them from winter, they felt his mercy. Every spark was a symbol of his suffering, every wisp of smoke a reminder of his strength. Prometheus, looking upon these scenes from the mountaintop, felt that his pain had not been in vain. His torment had given the world a future, and now this fire would never be extinguished. Time passed. Zeus, despite his wrath, realized that keeping Prometheus in chains no longer made sense. His strength had been broken not by torture, but by love for mankind. And even the almighty ruler of the heavens felt deep in his heart that the Titan could not be punished forever. In ancient tales, it is said that Zeus allowed Prometheus to live among people, to watch their achievements, and to be a quiet guide for those who sought knowledge. Other versions claim that Prometheus remained in the high mountains, in caves where sages and heroes came to hear his word. But one thing remained unchanged: memory. Every person who lit a fire unconsciously repeated Prometheus's legacy. Every flame was proof that even a single titan, defying the gods, could change the fate of the world. And so the name of Prometheus remained eternal. He was a symbol of rebellion and, at the same time, a symbol of love, an example that the sacrifice of one being could give life to all humanity.